Ms Jane Barham.
Madam Deputy President, widening the gap, broadening the underclass, increasing equality, entrenching poverty. As the Federal Treasurer Joe Hockey said last night, it's the time to face the facts. And the facts are that the federal budget has cut enormous holes in this country's safety net and is set to put already vulnerable people at risk of poverty, homelessness and deep disadvantage. The biggest impacts in this budget will be felt by the people who are least equipped to deal with further challenges. I want to note just some of the changes affecting vulnerable groups in our population. Income support payments, including the age pension and disability support pension, indexed to CPI and set to fall further and further behind growth in wages. In disability, changes to the disability support pension conditions for people under 35. Reviews of eligibility and compulsory participation requirements will see people with disabilities subject to increased stress, at risk of reduced income support and faced with pressure to find work where there is inadequate assistance from government and insufficient efforts among employers to make reasonable accommodations that would allow them to find work. In housing, funding cuts to programs that address affordable housing and prevent homelessness, $3.1 million cut from the National Homelessness Research Strategy, $235.2 million cut from the National Rental Affordability Scheme, $173.1 million cut from the Housing Help for Seniors pilot. In ageing and aged care, major funding reductions, $1.7 billion through reduced growth in the Commonwealth Home Support Program, $7.7 million lost in grants under the National Respite for Carers Program, $281.2 million cut by ending the Pensioner Education Supplement. In Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander programs, $534 million stripped from the portfolio. 150 programs for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people consolidated down to 5, and it appears $165.8 million in reductions to health programs. For young people, the New Start eligibility age raised to 24 years, leaving more young people on youth allowance and $48 per week worse off. But even worse, people under 29 will be denied any income support for up to 6 months. Then it will commence, then the next year, and each year after, there may be another 6 months where payments cut out and people are left without a safety net. And there are many more cuts to health, to education, radical, punishing changes to the fundamental framework that our society has been built on, and their effects will be most strongly felt by those who have the least capacity to withstand them. This budget has been met with dismay by those who stand for and work with vulnerable groups. Here are just some of the statements. The Australian Council of Social Services, Dr. Cassandra Goldie. The real pain of this budget, crushing and permanent, will be felt by people on low incomes, young people, single parents, those with illness or disability and those struggling to keep a roof over their heads. National Shelter Executive Officer Andrew Pizarski. There is a disproportionate weight being carried by the young, the old and cuts to programs which helped. It's not an even spread of contribution by any fairness measure. St Vincent de Paul. The government would like us to believe that this budget is tough but fair, but for the people who struggle to make ends meet, it can only be described as tough but cruel. You don't help young people or older people or people with a disability or single mums into jobs by making them poor. You don't build people up by putting them down. Combined Pensioners and Superannuants Association Manager Research and Advocacy, Amelia Christie. The message to Australians tonight is, if you get sick, you'll pay. If you get old, you'll pay. If you lose your job or acquire a disability, don't expect to get support so easily. Sharing the burden is heavily falling on the shoulders of those who least able to afford it. Anglicare Australia Executive Director Casey Chambers. It's a budget without hope, leaving many vulnerable Australians behind. A budget without hope. A budget where the heavy lifting is done by those already burdened by deep and persistent disadvantage. The question many people are asking, is this the Australia we want? It's irresponsible to claim that you are strengthening the economy if the result is that increasing numbers of people are left out of the benefits. It's unfair to tell people who have become with less opportunity and who have suffered the harms that come from intergenerational disadvantage they must take personal responsibility. This is a cruel and unreasonable budget, but we are a caring, compassionate nation. We deserve